Check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah,
we're
live.
are
live.
we're live.
Woohoo!
Okay, let me get organized. I'm going to mute everybody.
Oh.
Okay, I hope you can all hear me properly. Welcome to the John Lavenia Success Mastermind with me, Adrian Garner. John gave me the controls of the ship today. Let me just check what he's given me as a script at this point. It says, rub your hands with glee, praise John, and promise not to crash his new ship. Only joking, but anyway, seriously though, it is a great privilege to be sharing ideas with all of you today. I wanted to talk about competition, our view of it, the worry that it generates, why it shouldn't deter us, and I also wanted to reveal the facts about our biggest competitors. During our journey in recent months, I've heard various concerns from many people about competition, hence wanting to mention it now today. A concern, for example, about too much competition has been worrying people and putting them off progressing. It's caused some concern about being able to maintain a profitable business in the future. And worry can simply arise when you look at Amazon and see thousands of sellers doing similar things and all trying to sell to the same people. So what can we do about these concerns? And are we actually looking at competition in the right way and from the correct viewpoint? Is our perspective distorted and perhaps irrational? I believe that it could be. I wanted to talk about the various aspects of this apparent distortion and to work out how to identify your biggest competitors. So competition seems to give rise to negative connotations in our minds automatically, to fears of inadequacy, to the imposter syndrome, which Ego mentioned in her talk last week. We seem to fear being exposed as inadequate for the role or the task at hand, or perhaps of being overtaken by a competitor in life's race and business, and in what we view as a gladiatorial arena. But why is this, and where does this all come from? Is it reasonable? Well, this is one of the great discussions today where I don't have to say much. I can just ask you to ask yourself a lot of questions. For example, do you believe that anyone has the right to judge you? Do you owe anyone the right to judge you? Should your answer change when you're putting yourself out there, you're prepared to compete and you're daring to do so? Competition, in my view, is our right. It is natural and it's unavoidable. It arises whenever two or more of us attempt the same meaningful endeavor. And we've talked a lot about meaningful endeavors. We all have one. We're all developing one. So let's get used to it and let's revel in it like a comfortable old sweater or a pair of sneakers. And sorry for the British audience, sneakers are not a group of snitches, but a pair of trainers. So work that one out if you can. Perhaps, though, some of our views on competition arise from simply bad past experiences. In my case, being picked last by the opposing captains of school playground soccer teams. In some cases, perhaps not having been athletic and fast at high school and fearing being shown up in a race. Maybe some of us just did not achieve the test scores that we hoped for and looked anxiously at the scores that others had achieved. All of these things will have happened to some of us. Okay, that's fine. So all of these things and others may have happened to us, but do we really want to let these past fears or setbacks define our entire life going forward? Does it matter that we were not the best really at a given activity at a given age? Does that matter? The difference now, of course, is that we get to choose. We get to choose what we want to be good at and to compete on our own terms in the context of our own goals, not the goals now of a soccer captain, a running coach, or a school principal. So what matters surely is what we choose to do now and what we actually do now, and also how we do it. You're in charge now and you choose your arena, you choose your theatre. So what's our aim? Is it to compete for the sake of it? No, I don't think so. I believe it's to succeed at what we have chosen to do. In other words, our why, this burning desire that we're talking about at the moment with John in the book club and Napoleon Hill. If our aim then is to succeed in our chosen path, what can we say about success? Well, Earl Nightingale said, success is the progressive realization of a worthy goal or ideal. General George Patton, said, success is how high you bounce when you hit the bottom. Stephen Hawking said, however difficult life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at. Now, just digesting those three quotes, do those sound like quotes from people worrying about competition? Or do they sound like quotes from people who are actually more focused on what they were doing and what they were doing well? In my talk a few weeks ago, I mentioned US Olympic gold medal swimmer John Neighbor. He used the competition to his advantage. They had all gone before him and they'd set high standards, they'd set records. He wasn't the first mover. We're not the first movers in our current endeavors, and we're not the first movers on Amazon either. He analyzed that competition and he worked out between then and the next Olympic Games exactly how many fractions of a second he needed to improve in each training session and each day in order to win in 4 years into the future. He didn't say, hey, I'm way behind the competition. He didn't focus on that. He asked a positive question: by how much do I have to improve my time at each of my training sessions in order to beat the competition? So use the competition as a benchmark, as a slingshot, I like to say, to propel you forward and to improve your game. John Neighbor did this. He focused 100% on bringing his best game to the championships. Every day he asked himself this: is the face in the mirror the face of someone who can improve 1/1200th of a second in my next training session? That was all he was worried about. He was specific and he was intentional, but he was focused on what he had to do, not on what others were doing in their training. Now, in Ego's talk last Wednesday, we also raised the question of the imposter syndrome and of worthiness and feeling unworthy. It's inevitable that we're all going to measure ourselves against other people. The competition, we call it. This happens when we arrive at a new workplace or in a new marketplace, as we've just done. But this time we're on our own journey as entrepreneurs. We choose the journey and we chose that journey. Nobody is directing that journey, in my view, other than ourselves. In other words, it's your party. Can you ever be an imposter at your own party? No, that's the great thing. Being an entrepreneur and choosing to be an entrepreneur right now is your party. You created it. You can never be an imposter. You are setting the agenda. It's your party and you have a right to be there. Competitors can't stop you attending your own party. Your customers are simply going to signal to you whether they like and appreciate what you are doing, not what the competition is doing. Forget about that. If you have sensitive antenna, you're going to pick up all of these signals from your customers. You're going to learn from them and work to adjust. And that's what we actually, all of us always do every day. And sure, we have to keep our eyes on the competitor and what the moves that they're making, but just work out whether and how you need to respond to that. It requires a strategy and it requires action on your part, but you decide whether and how to respond and when. Again, it's your party. You choose the invitations, you choose the dress code, you choose the theme. So focus on what you are doing and yourself and how you're doing it. Watch the market and the competition in order to learn. So learn from it as a positive thing and improve on what you're doing and improve on what you're offering to your customers. Don't do this in order to judge what the competition are doing. It's not judgmental, it's developmental in my view. But if you do have a bad day or you worry about the marketplace, just remember, as we've discussed previously, that there were estimated to be 4.5 billion internet users at the start of 2020. And that's probably rocketed up by now, given what's happened. That is a very, very big pool of people with whom you can now directly and indirectly potentially communicate. I mean, wow, what can we say? That is an opportunity. Guess what? It's an enormous pool of every kind of want, every kind of need, and every kind of desire that's represented. And whatever your ideal or your goal, there's a market for it. You just have to find it. And John's mentioned this many, many times. There are all sorts of customers out there ordering things right now. I mean, look at John. He's keeping Amazon going almost single-handedly. The watering hole, in other words, is simply massive. If you dip your bucket into it deliberately and meaningfully, you're going to draw out water. The supply really is endless. And how much water you draw and in what space of time is entirely up to you and the effort you put in. It's not up to your competitor. They will not be able to exhaust the supply unless you choose to dip your bucket into tiny ponds or into drought-stricken regions of the market. And one thing's certain, there are always going to be competitors. They'll never go away. We just need to accept that and carry on and stand at the watering hole and dip the bucket in. So who are these mysterious competitors that we fear so much? Well, look around you right now. Look around the Zoom room, look at the panel. They're in the Zoom room with you right now. Are these terrifying, awful people who will steal the shirt off your back? Perhaps they fear their competition, and their competition is you. So there's always another side of the coin. There's always someone seeing you as their competitor. And in reality, most of us are just getting on with what we have chosen to do. We're not superhuman. We're not superhuman competitors. We're just dedicated, hardworking people. So don't fear the other side of the coin. Most of your competitors are just like you. They're going through the same stresses, strains, learning and journey. And the truth really is you just need to do your best job on your products and your business. There's plenty of business for you and your competitors. And John keeps reminding us of that abundance mentality. Now, clearly, as we've heard recently, there are some aggressive competitors out there and there are some dirty tricks. We all know that, and we're learning the hard way. Your Amazon training in other courses has highlighted this. We saw an example of product hijacking a week ago when Jane and Neil suffered exactly that. So you just need to know which battles to fight, who to take on, and who to avoid while you're still growing. Because we all start small with less power. And in that critical phase, we need to be more alert and more careful. But don't forget, with a larger competitor, always remember they are more vulnerable in a funny way. The larger competitor has a higher cost base, needs to sell more, and can't afford big gaps in sales either. They need the cash flow. You, by contrast, are nimble and quick to the market. You've got a low cost base. You're hands-on and you're directly involved with an evolving direct feel for your market and your customers. So play to your strengths and work out what they are and play to those. If you allow yourself to be disheartened or be put off by competition, you're not going to attain your dreams. And that's the truth. What is competition? Well, I've personally faced it many times. I've entered many competitive tenders against Goliaths, the largest firms, worldwide firms. So you just have to roll your sleeves up. I had to roll my sleeves up. They're larger, they're better resourced, and the larger and better resourced they are, the better prepared and better aware of the customer's needs you have to be. Because the great thing about competition, it doesn't matter how big your competitor is. The customer is what matters. You focus on the customer, you do a great job, and you really work out what the customer wants, you will win. And it's often just a question of how much work you're really prepared to put in to do that. It's as simple as that. Not blowing my own trumpet, but I've never lost one. But I've had to work really hard to understand exactly what it was. I mean, exactly what it was that the customer wanted and needed, and then how to work out how best to deliver it. My burning desire was to win the business, and I had the faith that I could do that. The right attitude and consistency will carry you forward, and it will win market share. Competitors are always going to be there. Just improve our game and we will get forward. But don't forget as well, things move on. Nobody has a permanent market advantage. What worked earlier for earlier sellers needs to be honed and improved constantly. So if you invest effort, research, and relentless development, then you're going to win some market share. Just look at Apple. They started in a garage in an industry dominated by giants. I mean, real giants, the IBMs of this world as they were then. Jobs and Wozniak took on those giants and they adapted and changed the whole industry. And then they just kept doing it, and they kept doing it consistently and better. And look where they are now. I said at the start of my talk that I would reveal the facts about our biggest competitors. Well, I did actually mislead you slightly. There is only one. Your biggest competitor is you. In the field of entrepreneurship, we discussed how massive the available market is, that watering hole. No competitor can win the whole game, the whole market. That's clear. But the problem is you can defeat yourself through your own mindset, your own attitude, your habits, and your behavior. And this is the biggest threat or competitor that you're facing. And we have a very real recent example to turn to. One of the greatest tennis champions of all time is Novak Djokovic. He's currently the #1 world tennis player. He has astounding technical ability. He's been pretty much unbeatable at various points in his career. He recently had reached the 4th round of the US Open Tennis Championship on the 7th of September. But in his apparent frustration, he smashed the ball away pretty hard. And unfortunately, it struck a line judge in the throat and he was disqualified. In other words, he beat himself. He may well have won that tournament. He was a massive competitor. He represented a huge obstacle for his competitors, but he reacted momentarily and he paid the price. And we're constantly competing with ourselves, whether against frustrations, fears, lack of commitment, lack of action, or doubt. This is the competition that we need to actually win in order to progress. And this is what this whole mastermind group is about. And given this, I wondered if you could set yourself some challenges. We could all set ourselves some challenges to compete with ourselves for the next few weeks, to compete with our self-control, perhaps to set some competitive targets and objectives for ourselves. Just bear that in mind. Before I close, I wanted to pause to consider the miracle of creation and the context we're actually sitting in the field of competition. Our universe is estimated to be 13.8 billion years old, and there are estimated to be 100 billion to 200 billion galaxies out there. That's whole galaxies, not individual stars and planets, whole galaxies. That is just mind-blowing. It's unimaginably large. So our universe contains 100 to 200 billion galaxies, and they're now saying they think there's more than one universe, which they're calling the multiverse. But here we are, we're all together in this group, in this unimaginable vastness. And how miraculous really is that? It is miraculous. But we've all found the courage to compete and to learn new skills. So let's live our intended life and let's celebrate that competition, really. I think it keeps us sharp. I think it keeps us to our self-discipline. I think it motivates us if we approach it in the right way with the right mindset. So I just wanted to say in closing, good luck to everyone with the continuing journey and your personal competition. There are many, many phases to it. You've already completed, though, a surprising number of them. And you've already learned, you've already adapted and adjusted. And you're going to do that again. To adapt a Buddhist parable, apologies, Squealer, you may need to build a raft to cross the water to reach the promise and expectation on the other side, they say. But once you've crossed, you leave that raft behind. You don't drag it ashore and over the land with you. The raft is just useful for crossing over, but not holding on to. You adapt and move on. You learn new knowledge. You learn new skills and new disciplines. So finally, I really, really do believe that you can change the world and your part in the world. And to me, doing that is not actually a competition, it's a mission. Thanks for listening. I really hope that that's stirred up some thoughts, and I'd love to hear from everybody. What do you think of that, and what your own reactions to competition are, and whether you're having bad experiences with it, for example. So, Bill.
Hi guys. Adrian, I could sit and listen to you all day. If only I had school teachers like you, I might have learned something back then.
Me too, I tell you, Bill.
Competition, what a great subject you've chosen. And I love how your whole analogy went there. You know, from competition in a silly, wee, tiny marketplace to competition of the universe or the multiverse. I mean, all of us here are pretty much a little multiverse ourselves. You know, we come from all walks of life, all backgrounds, all education levels, and all different experiences. So we are our own little universe in that aspect. And yes, we do compete against ourselves, and that's the best way sometimes to push ourselves forwards. And it's all too easy to sit back and go, I'm not doing it today. But you've got to, I watched a clip earlier on of a famous movie. I'm sure a lot of you guys would know it. And it was Cool Hand Luke, Paul Newman. And if you recall the fight scene where he's up with Mr. Kennedy and he is getting punched left, right and center, but he still gets up. He will not stay down. No matter how injured he got, he kept marching forward. And basically that's what we've got to do, is what you were saying, Adrian. We've got to keep moving forwards. We can't let a few stumbling blocks get in our way. You know, the guys were talking yesterday there about doors opening and that, and Wayne had said, you know, sometimes it's good to knock on those doors for opportunity. But in my short time in this world, because basically we are all here a short time in comparison to the world, sometimes you have to put the door in. You just don't wait for the answer. And if you want to get something that tight, you will go for it, no matter what's put up in your way. I would apply everything that you have said today. I can apply to life as well. It doesn't have to be competition against the marketplace or anything else. We have competition in our lives. So we have competition from our friends, from our family, people wanting you to do badly at some things, others wanting you to do better at some things, and we've all voiced our own opinions and answers to that. And I'm 5'8", and everybody knows what job I previously did. I did millions of jobs, but not quite as bad as Edward, if he's here today. But I'm 5'8", and I was introduced to a gentleman who worked for the Metropolitan Police in London, and he was originally from Northern Ireland. Phil, I'll not tell you his surname. Phil was 6'8". He had hands on him like a JCB bucket shovel, and he was just one massive guy. And I turned to my colleague who was the same size as me, and this is a guy from the country, so he has a bit of a different outlook than us city guys might have had. And I said, Neil, I wouldn't like to try and put him in the back of a police car on a Saturday night. And his words to me, and they always will stick with me, his words to me were, Bill, if it was all about size, the elephant would have been the king of the jungle. And I'll leave you with that. Thank you, Adrian.
Bill, that's a great thought. And I love the image as well of pushing the door in and just going for it. But you see, Bill, just looking around the room in front of me now, I mean, you strike me as being very self-assured, knowledgeable, confident, and good at what you're doing. And that could just put me off straight away. I'd think, oh no, I'm just not at Bill's level. I can't get a product straight. And that's the problem for everybody. Don't just react negatively to what you're seeing around you. You've got to focus on your own game. And I really believe that. But those were great thoughts, Bill. And the elephant pushing the door in is even better. So we'll... Now we have Jamie's hand up.
I've been accused of being the elephant that's pushing the door open a lot. I love the topic, Adrian. I think you should be a professional reader on the for books and over Audible and what have you. You've got a great smooth presentation and yeah, I could listen to you all day. I just wanted to say that I think the competition, without competition, I think then I think it would leave open for complacency. Because I think without having that competition, no matter what form it takes, you know, you kind of sit back and go, wow, I guess I'm doing okay. Things are great. I'm successful. I'm doing everything right. I just think the competition just brings you to another level. I know there's probably a few other people on here that might play golf. I know when I play golf with the people who are better than I am, I tend to, I don't know, for some reason, play a little bit better, just because watching that person and having the vision in my head of what that might be like for me to be able to rise up to that competition helps me. So it also helps in my personal and professional life too. So I think the short of it is that, I'm sorry, Bill, no pun intended, but the part it gets to be is that without complacency, I think it breeds. I think without the competition, it breeds complacency, and it's a good thing to have.
No, that's great, Jamie. I think it keeps us sharp. I think it really does. And as you say, if you're ever in a competition playing a sport, it does tend to raise your game. We just turn up better. I've noticed that many times. You just tend to play better. It pushes you forward. I'm quite relieved there. I guess you said professional reader. I thought you were going to say professional wrestler for a minute, and that got me a bit worried. But Jamie, those were great thoughts. Evelyn now has her hand up. Evelyn. There we go.
Hi. I think John Lavenia was before me.
Ah, sorry, John. How can I do that? I wasn't looking at the list properly. It's tiny
I'll
on my
yield the
screen.
floor. I'll yield the floor to.
No, John,
Evelyn.
okay, Evelyn, you go, and then
Okay.
John.
All right.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think I better go first because after John, I don't know what can I say. Talk about competition here, right? So there are several things that you were saying, Adrian, but I'm going to have to piggyback on some of Jamie's words. You are an amazing reader and you deliver your message so clearly, and I look up to you so much. I don't see you as a competition. I see you as a partner, and I am learning from you. And thank you for your kind words to me all the time. But competition is unavoidable, and I love competition. I'm very competitive in a good way. You know, I don't look at it in a negative way, but as a way of getting better. You know, what else can I do to separate myself from the competition? What else can I do to make myself better so I can give back more to others? That's how I look at competition. I do, however, have the feelings of inadequacy. That's my Spanish. I'm sorry, can't pronounce it very well. You know, that imposter syndrome, that fear that gets in us, right? And that you feel that you're not adequate enough, that you're not good enough. But then competition kicks in. Your self-esteem goes up and you say, why not? If they know how to do it, so can I. Why not? If they are doing this, I can go and study and learn how to do it and maybe do it better. Or the point of difference, right? Separate ourselves from how others are doing that. Another thing that I notice is that we are definitely our worst enemies. We will talk ourselves out. And that's where we gotta be so careful that we're not gonna go and quit, right? I know that many of us get to that point, that fear that will paralyze you and not want to move on. But I wanna put the competition word here as a positive twist to it. You know, why not want to beat the competition? You don't have to take the entire market, take a slice of it, you know, separate yourself, use your imagination, be creative, celebrate your competition, celebrate the good in you, how you can separate yourself, and get the attention from everyone, but in a good, positive way, not in a, I want to hug all the attention from this room or the hospitality room or any other room that we're going into to talk, but in a good way. You know, get attention in a positive way, try to keep the negative at bay, and learn from everyone else that is sharing with us every day. My goodness, I think that from the time that I was so happy to see that John was here, I said this many, many months ago, to me, that was the best part of Blue Sky. It was the mindset part. I absolutely loved it. I was sold. I figure Amazon can take my, you know, the back seat, but the mindset, I'm all for that. I absolutely love it. So, you know, attention from everybody, competition from everybody. Let's just use that, you know, as a way of learning. That was it.
Evelyn, that's great. And I really, really love what you said about partnership. That resonates with me a lot. I know we can't stop competition, and actually we don't want to, because it does do us good if we're really honest about it. But together as a group here, we are in a partnership, and I feel stronger for that. I feel we can each draw ideas from everybody else, and people have proven that they're there for everybody else. So I think together we are quite a powerful competitive force on our own right. By sharing all our knowledge, our experience and ideas, wow, that's some power to me. So thanks very much, Evelyn. I 100% agree with that.
You inspire me.
Well, that's very kind of you. You inspire me. Everyone does. I mean, I just love seeing these great stories we've had over the last week or two about people going for interviews, promotions, launching products. It's amazing. Taking on the hijackers. You know, Neil and Jane didn't give up. They just took them on. So this is great. And this is what it's all about. So thank you, Evelyn. And I better go to John now and apologize profusely. And I'll buy a new pair of specs, John, so I can see you better.
Okay. Well, thank you, Adrian. And a bunch of ideas came up for me as you were introducing this idea of competition, because it's one of the things that I don't think about probably as much as I could or maybe should. I don't know. But what I look at is how can I add something intangible to the same, ostensibly the same offer, the same product, right? How can I enhance that in such a way that nobody can compete with? And what that has done, and you and I have had these conversations in private. I have one offer, a product provider that I work with, where typically people would bring in a customer once every other week. I did 30 in 30 days. And I'm like, am I special or something? So what is that? Now, I may have a bit more experience on the marketing side, although I'm no expert with marketing. But when it comes time, like when there's actually a customer in front of me or a potential, client or whatever, I'm going to add something to that mix, that special something. I'm going to start talking like Napoleon Hill here in a minute. That special something to the mix where it's not just the product anymore. The offer includes the product, which you can get from anywhere, but it also includes this communication that we're in right now. Can't compete with that. Nobody can. All right. Now, Emerson said, envy is ignorance, imitation is suicide. So to even try and compete with that, or if I'm comparing my stats with somebody else's who's got better stats, now I'm going astray. So when I say I don't look at competition too much, I don't look at it to influence me about how I should attempt to serve my ideal target audience who's in front of me right now. All I know is them. They're the only other person in the universe, the multiverse, the whatever friggin' verse. I don't care. That is the most important person in my life at that moment. There could be an earthquake. In fact, I was in LA doing some work, working with a customer. There was an earthquake. I didn't notice. Okay. So in fact, neither did they, because we were in a conversation. It was a minor earthquake. It wasn't like, shit was falling off the walls or anything. But then I think, all right, so let's bring this to metaphor, right? Because Wayne always reminds us of these metaphors, right? I walk into Home Depot. Home Depot, for those of you outside of the United States, is a huge warehouse-sized home improvement, hardware, nuts and bolts, lumber, whatever. They've got an entire aisle, both sides, of nothing but light bulbs. Okay, so how many light bulbs do you need? Well, what kind of light bulb are you looking for? It's not that one. It's not that one. You can walk up and down the whole damn aisle looking for a specialty bulb. Guess what? It's not even in that store. Now you got to go online, right? Because then that's not a high volume item. I need the specialty light bulb. Now I'm hitting homedepot.com or Amazon or Lowe's or whatever, right? So the question then is, let's say I was in a light bulb business. Should I look at the Home Depot aisle and say, you know what? Too much competition. I'm not entering, right? No. I mean, if your passion is light bulbs and you've got a way to deliver that and offer that in a way that is unique, it wasn't like the whole aisle is just 60 watt, light bulbs. No, there's lots of variety with that. So what is the point of differentiation? What is our unique selling proposition? And I'm thinking right now, between those two examples that just came up for me, one with adding subjectivity and uniqueness to a product, and then number two, looking at something as mundane as light bulbs and thinking this never ends. This story keeps going on. In fact, they're manufacturing new forms of light bulbs. These are the dimmable, change the colors, LEDs, right? That do the special thing. Okay, fine. Solar powered. There's infinite variety of stuff. And we're still not done inventing it. Okay, so knowing that, while you were talking, I got this Facebook message from a guy who's known me for some years. He wanted some free advice. John, can I ask you a question? Okay, great. Ask me the question. You just did, right? Can you ask me another? Yes, you can ask me another. Here we go. I've been using such and such type of advertising and this advertising and that advertising. He mentions 3 forms of advertising. I have lots of opt-ins. So he's getting traffic. He's getting leads. I've got a lot of opt-ins to his email list, his potential customer list, but no sales. But lots of people promoting the same link, online marketing, making lots of sales every day, comparing him to others, okay? What am I doing wrong? I've invested about $7,000 already with no profits. Well, there's a problem. Okay, so if the offer, if it's the same offer, same link, he says, same link. There's a missing piece in this. If it's the same offer, exactly, well, then it's just crappy traffic that he's putting on the offer. I don't think that's the case because I know a couple of the sources that he's mentioning. And I've used them and I've made sales. So then my question back to him was, well, I said exactly this. If conversions are happening for others with the same offer, then it's something that you're personally doing or not doing. What's different about your presentation and close? Great question. So, let's take a look now at what's going on. And this could turn into, a coaching contract or whatever, depending on how committed this individual is to growing their business. But just, is that logical? Of course. I think, if it's the same offer, supposedly the same offer, which this person may or may not consider himself a part of, right? Maybe they're detached from the offer. Maybe it's just a light bulb and I've got nothing to do with it. Okay, well, maybe that's part of the problem. And maybe the people whose statistics are being reported as, as wonderful, and that he's comparing his own statistics to, maybe there's more to that story. Maybe it's not the same exact link. It probably isn't. Based on the first thing I said, how can I create this in such a way that whereas the the standard issue rank and file, participant maybe makes a sale once every other week, I make 30 in 30 days. How can I cause that? So it's an interesting question. And it's one that I think, sorry to hijack the conversation. It's one that I think that we all deserve to ask ourselves, lest we just be average, which by definition is unremarkable. And I'm here to make a spectacle of myself. So thank you, Adrian. Great topic. Back to you.
John, that's great. And you remind me of three particular people who invested themselves personally in the competition and won. And that is Edison, the enduring light bulb, Henry Ford with his V8 engine that we've been looking at in the book club, and Steve Jobs again, who created groundbreaking things in several industries. They were all personally invested. They just never gave up. So they didn't care about the competition. There was a lot of it. A lot of people had given up. There were some giants against them, but they just carried on. So you do remind me of that. Yes, absolutely. It's all about your personal investment and commitment and your burning desire.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, Bill, you're actually taller than me by 1.5 inches. Thank you very much. And if it was about being tall, the giraffe would be the king of the jungle.
Love it. Now we've got a giraffe beating the door in and an elephant at the same time. That's a hell of a competition, John. So Elmer and Hoong-San have their hands up. Elmer and Hoong-San, I can't see you at the moment. Hi, there you are.
Hi, Adrian, it's Elmer. I know it's been a while since I've spoken, but
great to hear you.
What a great topic. It's brought up so many different ideas. I sort of wanted to focus on that whole point about choosing teams. We are the captains of our own teams right now. And as captain, we get to choose how our team is made and where we focus our energy. It's good to be aware and learn from our competitors, but do we devote and focus, our energies and have it be detracted by them? Or do we choose to focus and contribute to our own positive well-being and focus on me? I think through the group and the energy that we have in this mastermind, I think we all know we should be choosing me. We should be choosing ourselves and focus on what we can bring and put out into the marketplace on the value that, each of us comes from different perspectives, and we would approach that in our own different and unique ways. And, to John's point, focusing on the customer who we want to target and bring our own approach should be where we bring out the value and the differentiators of how we approach that problem we're looking to solve. So, there's plenty of competition, but we can only bring what we bring in the way that we bring it in our own special way. So thank you for the conversation. This is always a great one to be reminded of. But I devote my energy to me.
Elmer, that's great. And I'm so glad you mentioned that. You brought up the question of uniqueness, which goes again back to what John was just saying, really. We are all different. And that's why there's plenty of market, plenty of opportunity, regardless of the competition, because we all bring our unique take on this universe, on the product, on the service, on the customer. And that is why the market thrives, because it is so diverse and we're all different. Otherwise, it would be plain vanilla. Everything would be gray. There'd be no interest at all. And where would we be? So I think you brought up a fantastic point there. And uniqueness and your personal uniqueness is everything. I absolutely agree with that. Thank you, Elmer. Alison has got a hand up.
Hi. Yes. Well,
Hi.
Elmer, absolutely. That was exactly a point I wanted to say as well. When I first started this journey, I definitely did have these feelings of so many people are doing this journey now because of COVID. How many more people are coming to sell online? And then I was watching a lot of 6-7-figure sellers who were all doing it. I was thinking, they've got teams of people searching for products, and they've been doing this for years and years. How can I possibly compete with them? And I think then doing all the mindset stuff, it just totally changed everything. And I think for me, it was exactly what Elmer was saying. It's focusing on me and my journey, and looking at where just that focus. So the competition isn't competition, it's irrelevant. Yes, there are things that you can learn potentially from competitors' listings or whatever, but really they're not there. You know, I am just there, and I love your analogy of the bucket, Adrian. I'm there with my rope and my bucket, and that's the only important thing, and how much integrity and how much value. We are all so unique. So we've all got our own unique little journey to that water, and that's the only thing, to detach everything else and just focus on that. I found that really helpful, and also not to compare. Like I was saying last week about our bike ride, you know, I went up a hill in a completely different style to my sister, but we both got there at the top, and we both got there. We'll get to our goals in the end, however which way we do it. So not to even think of comparing against other people. That's what I want to say.
It's great listening to you, Alison, because you just put so much energy and commitment into things. I know you're going to do well because you're really, really enthusiastic. And that's what it's about. It's maintaining that enthusiasm when the going gets a bit tough and we're being phased out by what we're seeing from the competition. That will push us through barriers. It really will. So thanks very much, Alison. Just before I go to Wayne, Toyin has been trying to put her hand up and has had trouble doing so. So Toyin, if you don't mind, Wayne, we'll just call in. Toyin? Can't see you at the moment. Hang on. Toyin? Well, we'll come back to you, Toyin, if you can.
I'm just sorry.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I
I'm
can
so
see you.
sorry. I forgot to unmute myself. How silly of me.
No problem. Good to see you. We haven't seen you for a while.
No, I was just saying that it's just nice to see everyone and be here. I've been off the calls for, I think, since the end of last week because I've been working, and yesterday, so I haven't been on, and I have missed listening and hearing and being encouraged. And thanks for a great topic, Adrian. And actually, competition is something I was thinking about the other day. I think I just had the jitters about, oh my gosh, you know, this Amazon, there's so many people doing different things, and how is my product going to, you know, be seen? And then I had to think and remind myself of when I've had competition in my life, and I've had some really fierce competition. And when I started my job in TV, I remember it being so very competitive when I started. And actually, even just having the interview process was about 6 hours. And I remember at the end of the interview, the next day, I was feeling quite unwell because I'd had to use my brain so hard. And I hadn't used it like that for ages. Anyway, so I started the job, and it was really competitive. And there used to be, that 12 of us started on the same day, and there'll be all these rumors. People would say, well, if you don't do this, then you're out. Because I started as an assistant, and it was like a year's attachment. So they'll be like, oh, well, if you don't do this by a certain time, then you're out of the door. They're not going to renew your contract. You'll be, and it used to be quite scary. And I had to like think about it and say to myself, actually, if I carry on like this, I'm not going to last. So I decided I was just going to be my own person. I thought about how I was going to show up and just be my own person and find my own way. And like Evelyn said about a partnership, I found some editors who were more experienced, who'd been there longer, and made friends with them and started to learn. And eventually it was fine. And, you know, that was many years ago. And now I'm not even an assistant editor. So I've moved on since then. But I'm just saying that in the end, I was able to find my own level and kind of shine through in my own way, be my own person. And when I did my master's degree for my counselling, again, the competition wasn't so much in the group. The group was quite supportive. It was more about the fact that when you do counselling in the UK, often they're not jobs at the end of the course, and you have to volunteer for a period of time. And the tutors would say to us, oh yeah, there are jobs out there, but they're not many. So again, it was this sense of, oh my gosh, there's going to be so much competition to find a job when I finish, and how am I going to get a job, and how am I going to be different? How are they going to see the value that I have? Anyway, eventually, it wasn't even very long after I finished. I volunteered for a couple of years, and then I got my dream job in a secondary school where I work now, and I love it. I work with young people, and that was what I trained to do. So again, I was just my own person, and I got I got the dream job. And that takes me to Amazon, and obviously there are lots of sellers, lots of products, and it's about finding our own niche. Like everyone has said, being our own person, being our own unique person, and bringing that into our product, and letting it shine through. And that's how I calm myself when I think about Amazon sometimes. I think, yeah, but think about the competition you've had. Think about how cutthroat it is in TV, and you've survived, and you're still there, you're thriving. So, it can't be any worse. You just learn from the past and use that for the present. So that's what I wanted to say. But thank you for a great topic. It's something I've been thinking about and dwelling on. And thank you, everyone, loving this platform and doing lots of catching up. Loving the Think and Grow Rich book. Ego, thank you for your tech talks. I'm catching up, but great to see everyone.
Oh, that's great, Toyin. That's very kind of you, and fantastic. I mean, you've highlighted another very important aspect, really, and that is that competitors will always try and phase you out by making pressure comments, saying how well they've done. These are all sure signs someone's trying to put you off because they know you're a threat. So learn to watch out for that. It generally means they're either insecure or they feel threatened, and just don't take any notice. I mean, the number of times you might remember coming out of exams where people have said, hey, I did brilliantly well, I got a massive score, and then they've completely flunked the thing and you did well. That happens all the time. People just do that to put you off, to feel better, to try and sort of stop the competition in its tracks. So I think you've raised an important point there. Thanks very much, Toyin.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you. I think Wayne had a technical problem. Stuart, if you don't mind, I think Wayne's had his hand up for a while. He's had a technical issue. He's looking number 2, but Wayne, are you there?
Yeah, so can you hear me all right, Adrian?
Can hear you fine, yes.
Thanks very much. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, no, sorry, I've dropped twice here already, so I'm hopefully staying on. Okay, so yeah, no, thanks very much. It's a very interesting topic. When you speak of competition, I'm just thinking of the layers of competition or different levels of competition, particularly in industry and so on. So, having come from the airline business and kind of dropping back to that example quite a few times, we've got what's known as commercial competition, and then we have operational cooperation. So I've quite often sat in meetings with other airlines who are competitor airlines, but we represent the same front when we're dealing with, say, an airport authority or a regulator, et cetera. So there's kind of competition on one level, but there's cooperation on other levels. And I think if you look at car dealerships and the way they cluster, in recognizing that there's a certain level of benefit to all of them to be in the same area, because it brings, focused and dedicated customers to one place rather than them being spread all over the place. And I guess, a good example is parts pools and airline alliances. It's quite common for airlines to be flying with other airlines' parts on their airplanes when they have a mechanical issue, or for airlines to carry each other's passengers when they have issues to help each other out. So there's competition on one side, but there's cooperation on the other side, and both of them kind of are able to succeed because of it. And what that brought to mind then is sort of using a biological metaphor again is symbiosis in nature. So when you have basically in nature, animals are competing for food. And so over time, animals have adapted to different food types, and often species will work with each other in one way or another. So if you think of ocean examples, the remora fish swims with sharks. It doesn't eat exactly the same food as sharks. It actually feeds off the body of the shark. and travels with it. Now, if the remora was to say, I want to eat what the shark eats, I want to compete with the shark, it might have a bit of a challenge, and it might become food itself. But by being symbiotic, by actually working parallel with the shark and feeding off, so what the shark feeds on then obviously feeds the shark, and then the remora feeds off the shark. So in essence, it's getting the benefit from being there without being a direct competitor, but still competing for food in that environment. Or you think of a clownfish in an anemone. And an anemone uses its tentacles. It has stinging cells which will kill its food, other things swimming in the area, but the clownfish is immune. The clownfish, because of its color, attracts other food sources to the anemone, so they work symbiotically. So there's still competition for food, and yet they've learned to work together, formed an alliance, they work symbiotically. So I think particularly us as smaller business people, most of us, I think, working with larger competition in ways that we may not have otherwise considered will allow us to form partnerships or relationships that allow everybody to succeed. So I don't know. There's lots of food in the ocean, I guess is what I'm saying, and there's creative ways to all compete for that food.
Wayne, I think that's great. No, that there are many ways, and as you say, many layers. There are many networks that can be created. Who knows? I mean, a big competitor could take a piece of what you're doing. You just don't know. And then, of course, we've all talked about selling businesses too. You're actually effectively selling them to a competitor most of the time. So no, that's very interesting. And I think we've created a great symbiosis in this group. You know, we all share, we all have slightly different problems at different times, but we're all feeding off each other and helping with ideas. So that's great to see, and the strength of the whole thing. So thanks for that, Wayne. Stuart is next and has his hand up. Here he is.
Hey guys. Oh, sorry. Adrian, well done, man. Great topic today. Really good presentation. You're one of those people with the golden voice in our group here, and it's always a pleasure to listen to you for sure. Wayne, super awesome nature analogy. Thanks for sharing that. Let's see. Evelyn, I enjoyed your comment about how competition can make us better, and that it doesn't have to be a negative thing. And Toyin, I liked your comments about just being yourself and finding your level and just being your own person, right? And I think that translates into the business world too. A couple months ago, I had spoken about competition and some of my issues as a struggling young entrepreneur, and how essentially killed it with kindness and customer service, and really focusing on the customer experience and what made me or our business or what we were offering absolutely unique and different, even in an industry that could be seen as competitive, right? And I think that's the benefit, that's the challenge of competition, is to get past the self-doubt, the self-image, the intimidation, and go right into personal empowerment and differentiation, and what makes you different. What are you actually bringing to the table? And like you were saying, it's not just the product that you're offering, but it's you, it's your story. I think John was saying that, and that's all good stuff. I think that the concept of differentiation goes back to finding our why, finding our purpose, right, and having more than just a product that we're offering, but something that really speaks to the customers. I think for me, starting on this e-commerce journey, which is obviously a new thing for all of us or most of us, and I think Evelyn hit it on the head with that concept of intimidation. When you first start looking for products and you do your competitive analyses, and you look at these other competitors or competing products on Amazon or whatever it is, and you don't have a product yet, or you're thinking about listing a product or ordering a product, and you look at this great listing, and there's automatically like, oh, how can I possibly compete with that? How can I, these guys are already doing it. Look at all these reviews they have, they're making sales, all this kind of stuff. And I think that there's a bit of a mental hurdle to get over there. And part of that, I think, does come from understanding that once we either differentiate our products or our businesses or what we're actually offering. Plus understanding, and you had mentioned, what was it, like 4.6 billion people using the internet, right? And so on the one hand, we could say that we're competing, in a market, and yet, if we do a good job of differentiating our products and our why and our business, then there's really the opportunity to, let's say, target or work with different demographics, even within the customer base. So yeah, there's 4.6 billion, customers, but how many of those want the specific benefits and features of the product that you're offering, right? So the more you can dial that down, the more you can find customers that believe in your why and want to buy your products because you share common values. As a guide, as an outfitter, and Adrian, maybe you would agree, but for many years, I'd come home from a wilderness trip, whether it was a day hike or a 4 or 5, 6 day wilderness trip. And the first thing Leah would ask me was, did everybody have a good time? And to me, my definition of success was facilitating an experience for people that was a life-changing, authentic, enriching experience. And then the subset of that was that I would have to bring back the same number of people that I took out to be successful. But, you dropped a couple of quotes of success. I can't remember who you were quoting. Adrian, who were you quoting then?
Zell Nightingale. General Patton was one of them as well. Yeah.
I like the Nightingale quote. John has used that quite a bit. I'm going to drop you a quote from Stuart the Llama Guy about success. Okay, success has nothing to do with how many zeros are in your bank account. And I've kind of always said that for a long time. And yes, we can talk about, let's say, financial freedom and the things that we want in terms of our goals. And I guess, some people would equate success with how much money you make, but I've always come from the place of, success. You can have different definitions of success, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, about how much money you're making. Thanks.
Stuart, that's great. That's a great summary as always. And you reminded me of the story you told us about your competitor arriving in town. You had one competitor, you got a bit worried, and then you just carried on. You focused on your knowledge, your skill, and just your customer service, and you won the game. I remember that distinctly. Yeah. So thanks very much for that summary. So we're coming up to the end of the session today, and we have Glenn and Nicola to take us there. So Glenn has his hand up first.
Adrian.
Hey, Glenn.
Phenomenal job. Your erudition. Yeah, and yes, I am a grammar Nazi. Your erudition is always inspiring to me. I know we're at the top of the hour, so I'm going to talk fast. I have always had a kind of a weird view, or at least what seemed weird to me, view of competition. I'm not generally competing against anybody or against any company, or who my competition is? My competition is my procrastination, my ego, the unhealthy food I'm consuming, the knowledge I neglect, the negative behavior I might nurture within myself, my own lack of creativity, my own lack of resourcefulness. So most of the time I'm competing against that. And for me, anyway, everybody has their own experience. For me, the only guy I have to compete against, the only guy I really need to compete against is the guy that I was yesterday. I figure if I can beat that guy, I'm probably doing okay. And as John quite correctly pointed out, the one unimpeachable, unique selling proposition of my offer, what I would offer to somebody in terms of a product or a product provider or a business model or anything, the one thing that nobody can compete with is this guy. So I'm always in mind of making this guy better, improving my skills, improving my own impact on the world. And I thought of this phrase yesterday that somebody mentioned, that I actually was having a conversation with somebody, open-hearted leadership. So you know what? You don't just get my product, my service, my business model. You get my heart. You get me. Who's going to compete with that? So I'm just looking to beat the guy that I was yesterday. I figure I'm doing all right with that. Back to you, Stuart.
Hey, Stuart. I love that, Glenn. I love that. I mean, that's
Back to
absolutely what I
you,
was.
Adrian.
There you go. There you go. No, Stuart, quite happily coming. No, I absolutely agree. And that's what I was trying to say. I think, it's keeping ourselves on track, keeping the journey going and focusing on what we need to work on will get us there. It will. I mean, look where we already are. Look at where you all started not that many months ago and how much you've already done. That's what I was saying as well. It's a tremendous amount. I mean, you wouldn't probably have believed some of the things you're doing now, almost like second nature. So this is going to happen. But as Glenn says, focus on improving our game, upping our own game, and it'll all come together. Thanks, Glenn. Thanks very much. So, Nicola, you get to bring the session home here.
Yeah, no pressure. I'll keep this. I'll keep it brief. I think Glenn's absolutely nailed it there. I'm not there yet, so this is a brilliant, really well-timed subject for me today. So thank you. But I do have a lot of those self-doubts. It's a brand new experience for me. But what I've taken from this is listening to pretty much everyone bar Glenn, I think, speak, is everyone has those self-doubts. We all have them. We all lack that, that kind of worthiness. So I think we just need to go easy on ourselves and remember that we are all in that same position. If not now, then we have been at some point, and just don't beat ourselves up so hard about it. So just thank you for everyone's honesty, because I think that's just kind of struck a chord with me. So yeah, I'll remember that and probably encourage everyone else too. We are all human beings and we all go through the same emotions. So try not to get stuck in that place for too long.
That's wonderful, Nicola. And that's what I was saying. It's your party. You created it. You've got a right to be there. Don't think otherwise. And Glenn is saying it's your heart as well. It's your party and it's your heart. So go for it with your whole heart and your whole vigor, and just pursue that burning desire. And I really recommend the book in the book club at the moment. Everything you probably need to know is in that book, and every chapter is dynamite. So really, if you've got a chance to listen in and read it, do that, because it's your party, but you need that motive force to keep you moving forward. And all of us need that. It's easy to fall off the track. So thanks very much, Nicola. John, did you want to say anything in closing?
No, thank you. But keep in mind that tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern U.S. time, we've got Adventures in Mindset, Tales from the Trail with Stuart Wilde. So get excited and meet us there. So thank you, Adrian. Great session today.
Thanks, John. We'll see you all there. We're looking forward to listening to Stuart and the intrepid adventurer. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you. Goodbye. Bye for now.
Bye,
Goodbye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.